Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Gary Lane. Today, Israel keeping up its strikes on Hezbollah, looking at a potential ground invasion just days after taking out their leader, Hassan Nasrallah. But Hezbollah is promising it will not quit, saying it will fight on. We'll look at the reaction to Nasrallah's death and what could come next. Here at home, the enormous damage and high death toll in the southeast and along the Atlantic coast in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. And as the presidential race heats up, we'll look at the division among Republicans in a key battleground state, Arizona, and the potential impact on the battle for the White House. Those stories and more today on NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin in the Middle East, where Israel appears to be getting ready for a ground operation against Hezbollah as their acting leader is promising to fight on after Israel took out their former leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is winning. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, Israel isn't letting up as it's launching more strikes on Hezbollah.
After eliminating Nasrallah and most of the Hezbollah leadership, Israeli jets continue targeting the remaining leaders, including a strike deep into the heart of Beirut early Monday. Netanyahu says Israel will continue attacking the terror group and taking on other threats in the region.
We're changing the strategic reality in the Middle East. Changing the balance of power brings with it the possibility of creating new alliances in our region because of a simple reason, because we're winning. Our enemies and our friends return to see Israel as it really is, a strong country, a determined country, a powerful country.
Netanyahu explained why Israel targeted the Hezbollah leader.
Nasrallah was not another terrorist. He was the terrorist. He was the axis of the axis, the central engine of Israel's axis of evil. He and his people were the architects of the plan to destroy Israel.
Islamic jihadists and their allies are mourning Nasrallah's death and swearing revenge. In the Iranian parliament and on the streets of Tehran, shouts of death to Israel rang out.
We want retaliation, a quick retaliation. We will definitely take revenge for Hassan Nasrallah's death.
Throughout Israel and even other parts of the Middle East, many celebrated. Israelis danced in Dimona, and Syrian rebels, who've long been targeted by Hezbollah in Syria, set off fireworks and celebrated. Israel is also carrying out powerful attacks on the Houthis in Yemen after they tried to hit Ben Gurion Airport this past weekend as Netanyahu returned from addressing the United Nations. In a veiled threat to Iran, the Israeli military chief of staff says the Jewish state can reach any enemy, no matter how distant.
We know how to reach very far. We know how to reach even farther. And we know how to strike there with precision.
Meanwhile, Netanyahu welcomed a former rival into his coalition government. Gideon Sa'ar said joining up with Netanyahu now is the patriotic and right thing to do.
At this time, it is important to strengthen Israel, its government, and its unity and coherence.
In the U.S., the Biden administration is still calling on Israel to put the brakes on in Lebanon to avoid all-out war.
Can an all-out war in the Middle East be avoided? It has to do. We really have to avoid this.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo disagrees.
We should be saying plain and clear, finish the job. Nasrallah would be alive today if the Biden administration ceasefire had gone into effect. The entire Hezbollah leadership would be alive today if the Israelis had agreed to the ceasefire.
Chris Mitchell is with us now from our news bureau in Jerusalem. Chris, any idea of what's next in Israel's military operations against Hamas? Is a ground invasion still possible?
Well, yeah, I think it's possible and probably inevitable. And right now we're hearing reports already of Israeli special forces that have gone into Lebanon in recent months. That's pretty much what they did before they went into Gaza in a big way. And that includes using actually Hezbollah tunnels to go across into the border. CBN News was in one of those tunnels a few years ago. They're long, they're deep, and these raids are likely preparation for a wider ground operation that some believe could come as soon as this week. The question is, will U.S. pressure hinder or stop Israel? I'm not sure that's going to happen. The operation does seem inevitable. They've been preparing for this for months, have been calling up reserves, training, massing armor and tanks on the border. And one of the objectives is to create a safe zone from the blue line, the Lebanese-Israeli border, all the way to the Litani River. And but yet you still have thousands of Hezbollah fighters remaining, those tunnels, rockets and rocket launchers. But it looks like the safe zone is necessary for those residents to go back from the north to go back. And it looks like a ground operation is necessary to do that.
Well, Chris, I was going to ask you about the capabilities of Hezbollah. Hezbollah's deputy leaders promising to fight on. So do they still have a lot of weapons left to fight with? And who's likely to be the new head of Hezbollah after Nasrallah?
Well, you know, you have thousands of fighters, Gary. The question is, after the Bipa fiasco a couple of weeks ago, how well coordinated are they? How are they communicating? You know, their command structure has been decimated. They still do have thousands of rockets, but then the IDF is striking them incessantly. Now, who's the next leader? Hassan Nasrallah's cousin, apparently, Hashem Shafi-Din. But, you know, Gary, given the last few weeks, it's a very real question. How long is he going to last?
Well, he even looks a little bit like his cousin, doesn't he? So was Netanyahu under a lot of political pressure, Chris, to bring home the Israelis who had to evacuate because of Hezbollah rocket attacks?
Well, Gary, he was under pressure, but actually, on the one hand, he's been under a lot of more political pressure to bring the hostages home out of Gaza. I mean, there's been weekly, sometimes daily protests against Netanyahu to get them out. The residents in the north, thousands of them, really weren't nearly as vocal. The pressure, I think, Gary, came from the fact that it's simply unsustainable to have more than 60,000 Israelis as refugees in their own country and then have more than 9,000 rockets, drones, UAVs, and anti-tank missiles fired into Israel. And you have a couple of million Israelis running to their bomb shelters. And so, you know, since the very beginning, they knew it was hard to fight a two-front war. Now that the war in Gaza has lessened significantly, they believe it was time to hit Nasrallah. And I would believe most people would agree the last couple of weeks has really been a game changer here after what Israel has done to Hezbollah.
Well, and the Ayatollah must be pretty nervous right now because Israel sent a pretty clear message to Iran. We can strike you, too. So how is Iran reacting to Israel's strikes on Hezbollah?
Gary, I think we're in the new Middle East. You've been here before. Iran's main proxy's gone. Hamas is gone pretty much. Iran is on the defensive. I wouldn't say Hezbollah is completely gone, but they're really on the run. And Iran knows its oil and nuclear facilities are vulnerable. That was the threat that the IDF chief of staff made. And you really do see Israel on the rise, just like Netanyahu said. The Sunnis are cheering him on. And so the question is, could Lebanon and Syria actually become free from the grip of Hezbollah? And it seems like we're in a new paradigm here in the Middle East. Where do we go here? It's a huge question, but it appears that Israel is going on to victory if they can.
A former rival of Netanyahu's is now joining his coalition. So how important is that? And has the elimination of Nasrallah strengthened Netanyahu and the Israeli government?
Well, Gideon Sa'ar joining, I think, is very important. There's been a lot of internal opposition against Netanyahu. This strengthens him politically. Coalition members are saying the unity is going to help defeat Hezbollah. Politically, he gains 4 more seats. That puts him up to 68. So really that strengthens him politically internally because if one of these other smaller parties leaves the government, like some have threatened, it gives him an insurance policy. And also the elimination of Nasrallah strengthens Netanyahu significantly. Even many Israelis who may not like Netanyahu personally, they've agreed that the way he's run the war, and this takes his support to a new level.
And after the elimination of Nasrallah and the top Hezbollah leadership, where does that leave Lebanon now? What are intercessors there asking for prayer?
Well, right now it leaves a political and military vacuum. Hezbollah has been the de facto power there in Lebanon. I've been in touch with an intercessor from inside Lebanon. He said this: "Do we dare pray for a new Middle East?" He said it's really time to pray that Lebanon would sign a peace treaty with Israel, like Egypt and Jordan have, for Lebanon to embrace the Abraham Accords movement, and also to pray against civil strife in Lebanon, especially between Shiites and Sunnis. They have a history of civil war in Lebanon, so pray for that unity. And it's also an indication that it's really a fervent prayer movement inside Lebanon and really throughout the Middle East, praying for God's purposes here in the region.
Okay, Chris Mitchell, our CBN Middle East Bureau Chief. Thanks as always for your insights, Chris. Stay safe. Know that many people are praying for you and our staff there in Israel. God bless. Well, coming up, here at home, the incredible damage and flooding and the high death toll in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene as a storm made its way through the southeast and along the Atlantic coast. We'll have that story for you when we come back.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning, the CBN News Quick Start Podcast. Each weekday morning at 7 a.m., get quick highlights of the day's important news. Then an in-depth analysis that goes beyond the headlines. Insights that matter to people of faith. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Find the CBN News Quick Start Podcast on iTunes or wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts, because truth matters.
The devastation brought by Hurricane Helene across 5 states in the South is being described as catastrophic. At least 90 people have been killed. That number could go higher. Rescue crews are now searching for the missing, as well as working to restore power to millions. CBN's Wendy Griffith has that story.
Helene made landfall as a powerful Category 4 hurricane, slamming Florida's Big Bend region late Thursday night.
This is the third storm in a year. I don't know how much more we can take.
In the mountains of North Carolina, as much as 30 inches of rain fell.
It's heartbreaking because along this river, we have a lot of wonderful stores, and we're going to be cleaning up a long time.
Asheville largely cut off by washed-out roads, a lack of power, and no cell phone service. The city's water system severely damaged as well. Officials are working to get residents the help they need.
My staff has been making every request possible to the state for support, and we've been working with every single organization that has reached out. My promise to you is that we are very close.
In North Carolina, FEMA's administrator telling CBS News they're still in active search and rescue mode.
I don't know that anybody could be fully prepared for the amount of flooding and landslides that they are experiencing right now. But we have had teams in there for several days. We're sending more search and rescue teams in there. Water is a big concern right now as well, and so we have sent bottled water in, but we also have the Army Corps of Engineers that's getting ready to start assessments today to see what we can do to help get those water systems back online.
President Biden issued disaster declarations for several states.
We've given them all everything we have. We're on the ground ahead of time, so we're working hard.
Similar devastation in Tennessee. Governor Bill Lee touring some of the hardest hit areas on Saturday. Buildings destroyed, bridges and roadways crumbled. CBN's Operation Blessing on the ground in Valdosta, Georgia, working with Anchor Faith Church.
Being able to partner with Operation Blessing to serve our community, cleaning supplies, hygiene kits, food, even prepping hot meals here. Been able to set up a base and station here at our church facility. It's just been exciting and been an awesome opportunity to be able to blessing to our community.
A team from Operation Blessing is also on the ground in North Carolina, beginning to assess needs and serving communities with food and other necessities. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Still ahead, a political divide as wide as the Grand Canyon. Trump Republicans versus the rest of the Arizona GOP. See why this fight could determine who controls the state and the White House. Right after this. In the battleground state of Arizona, a rift is splitting the Republican Party. Traditional conservatives and MAGA Republicans are competing for the party's future. This division could threaten key races at both state and national levels. Tara Mergner reports from Phoenix.
The conflict within the Arizona GOP mirrors a national trend, with MAGA Republicans and traditional conservatives vying for control of the party's future. The state is an especially intense flashpoint in the battle for influence.
From sun-baked deserts to lush green forests, Arizona's varied landscapes serve as a symbolic backdrop to contrast within the Republican Party.
So GOP versus MAGA here in Arizona. What is happening with that?
We got a little glimpse of that in the last primary that we just concluded. You know, it was kind of pegged a little bit of the MAGA versus moderate, and for the most part, the MAGA group won. How that may play out in the general election remains to be seen.
Even though Donald Trump narrowly lost here in 2020, he remains a powerful force across the Grand Canyon state.
He may not be a perfect man, but he's a good leader.
His influence is obvious in places like Show Low, nestled in the eastern part of the state, surrounded by the Sonoran Desert, and home to the Trump store.
So we were the campaign headquarters for then candidate Trump. And after the campaign ended, so we were trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? Besides the local people, we get so many people from around the world who come in.
Since opening 8 years ago, the store sees a steady stream of customers arriving daily to shop, enjoy a latte, and express their support.
Here in Arizona, a lot of them still got a lot of the old McCain Knights that are grasped under the power. So we got all of this MAGA people constantly fighting them.
We have a candidate that just wavers off here and goes off there. They're called woke rhinos. No, we don't support them at all. You can't. You can't at a time when you're about to lose this country. And that's the sentiment of people when they're coming in.
The balance of power is also at stake in the U.S. Senate this election cycle. Arizona's choice of who to send to Washington could play a crucial role in tipping the scales in national politics.
The contrast between Trump ally Kari Lake and Democrat Ruben Gallego is expected to influence overall voter sentiment and turnout, highlighting divisions between MAGA voters and establishment Republicans on issues like the border and abortion.
Kari Lake told the McCain Republicans to get out of the party, and I think we see it's a pretty big challenge for Republicans to bring the entire coalition together.
Sheriff Mark Lamb lost to Lake in July's highly contested primary.
One of my goals was to really try to bring the party together, to not do anything that would create any more division. I don't use the terms of MAGA or Rhino. I don't like those terms. I think those terms are destructive to the party.
The GOP rift in Maricopa County, crucial to Biden's narrow 2020 victory, is highlighted by former Governor Jan Brewer, a key Arizona conservative who supported incumbent Republicans over MAGA candidates in primary races.
They are the people that are going to decide who's going to win these elections. The middle of the road people.
Thank you. On the other side, GOP leaders hope that former Governor Doug Ducey's endorsements of Trump and Lake can help unite the party.
It's probably about 70% or so that are very loyal to Trump, that are more MAGA at this point. But where they're struggling is that 30 or so percent of Republicans that don't subscribe to that and really have serious concerns about what's going on within the party.
The GOP here also has other worries, such as young independent voters, a growing segment of Arizona's electorate. A new survey from Arizona State University reveals that 4 in 5 don't believe they are represented by either majority party.
But they feel the parties as an institution to help them make informed decisions about democracy isn't working. And if I was a partisan and I was part of the party, I would be very alarmed.
And our state is 1/3 Democrat, 1/3 Independent, 1/3 Republican. If I don't have all the Republicans, I either have to take I'm 25, 30% of the independents and get crossover Democrats, and then it's close. And then I'm looking at 10,457 vote difference, which is what happened here in 2020.
Another challenge is breaking through to the state's 2 million evangelical Christians. More than a third are expected to skip voting, partly because they're disappointed with candidates or policies that don't align with their values. On top of that, more churches are shying away from political issues.
And so what we find is that most Christian churches never receive any kind of teaching about what the Bible says about major political issues. Right now, they don't know how to choose candidates.
Still, analysts believe Arizona Republicans can carve a path to victory if they're able to unite independents, moderates, and their base in time.
I really think that people should question why they are a Republican. Is it about the message or is it about the messenger? And I am hopeful and I am prayerful that we're going to come to a place where people recognize that I think we're teetering on the edge of a cliff.
Getting that message across is not only vital to the party's influence across the state, but on the national stage for years to come. In Phoenix, Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Coming up, evangelist Franklin Graham donating ambulances to Israel in the name of some very important Americans. We'll bring you that story when we come back.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Finally today, another story from the Middle East. Evangelist Franklin Graham has pledged 22 armored ambulances to Israel. The president of Samaritan's Purse delivered 2 of the ambulances in the community of Av Shalom on the Gaza border recently. They were donated in the memory of 3 American Israelis murdered by Hamas, Hirsch Goldberg Poland, Roy Adan, and Smadar Moradan. The armored vehicles are crucial because they provide protection in dangerous areas as they transport the critically wounded to hospitals. Well, that's it today for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've just seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, which is formerly known as Twitter. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.